Why is it that people always tell themselves that they want to make a meaningful change in their life, but never follow through with the steps that it requires? And how is it that people can be so miserable, yet so complacent with the misery that fills them at every turn? It's because at the end of the day, our current society does nothing but encourage comfort and not the courage that leads us to growth. And because of that comfort, we now do nothing but settle for meaningless distractions and those worthless 5-second dopamine hits we get from doom scrolling. Instead of tackling the far fetched goals we wish we could achieve, we instead offer a life of mediocrity and comfort instead of that of greatness. But guess what? Those goals and accomplishments were never far fetched. They always have been in reach. We've just been conditioned to live in a world where people quit before they even start, and it's about time we changed that. So, in this video, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the societal issues that have been plaguing us and how it's been leading to a generation of men and women who don't ever realize their full potential. And so, the first issue I'm going to cover is complacency. Complacency as a whole has become a gradually increasing drain on us. It's never been more evident today with the amount of people now at the point where they have so little faith in themselves that they no longer believe that they can influence their position or status in this world. And the worst part about it is the fact that they're okay with it too. After a certain point, all of those individuals stop attempting to claw their way out and fight against that notion. And so the only thing they serve to achieve is proving their self fulfilling prophecy of self hate and failure right. They tell themselves every single day that they will never achieve anything and that they're just going to fail. So what's the point of even trying? And so they go ahead and achieve just that, being a failure. And why? Because they decided to give up and prove that voice in their head right. Failure and giving up has always been the easy option, and it always tends to be the path of least resistance when it comes to dealing with shitty situations. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've given up that fight just because it was the easy thing to do when I was tired, because honestly, I've lost count. For far too long in my life, I was complacent with that, and that complacency wreaked havoc on every aspect of my soul. Whether it was being too scared to go out of my way to talk to strangers, despite the fact that I wanted close connections, or feeling like I was too stupid to learn guitar, too undisciplined to go to the gym, or too naive to make a YouTube channel. I wanted the results without the effort required to achieve them. The common theme behind all these actions was my lack of faith in myself, and I got used to that, and so I stopped trying to grow. Now I get it. Failing fucking sucks. It further gives you a justification to hate yourself a lot of times, and it becomes scary after a certain point. But we need to stop letting it rule over us. I hated myself more and more each time I fucked up a social interaction, each time I flaked out of the gym, or each time I tried to learn a new chord and absolutely butchered it. And so the cycle continued where I would give up and go back to my life filled with regrets and self hate. And it's funny because on one hand, you think you're protecting yourself by not putting yourself into situations where you can fuck something up, but the reality was that you were fucking up by not fucking up. And what do I mean by that? I mean that at the end of the day, we learn from our failures, and the results eventually lead us into being successful only if we can learn from them. And by not learning or encountering that failure, we doom ourselves to a life of zero results. For every successful person out there, they have failed in some capacity, and a fuck ton. Whether it was Stephen King's first novel being rejected over 30 times, Michael Jordan being cut out from his high school basketball team, or literally fucking Elvis Presley himself being told he sucked so bad at making music that he should instead just drive a truck for a living. Now, what was the difference between me and them? It was the fact that all those famous people didn't let those failures stop them, and instead used that rejection to fuel their desire to prove everybody else wrong. And after hearing their struggles, it all finally clicked in my head. I learned that I was the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again, all the while I expected different results. I would feel miserable, want to change, get motivation to stop being miserable, do the thing to make me not feel miserable, fail at it, immediately quit, and go back to being miserable. And so the cycle of complacency repeated itself. So, what was the common denominator? The common denominator was the fact that I quit. I expected to finally make that change in my life, yet as soon as shit get hard, I would quit. And then I'd get angry at myself and do the same thing over and over and over again while expecting it to change again. But guess what? It never did. And that's what we need to realize as a whole. Society needs to understand that in order to make any meaningful change, we need meaningful consistency and meaningful drive to maintain our growth. It's not about being good at something that makes that change. It's a consistent small improvements over time that allows the blossoms of growth to bloom. Once that finally clicks, life gets infinitely easier. So when you find that motivation to go to the gym after all those failed attempts in the past, find that motivation to create that YouTube channel, or find that motivation to learn those chords, what you need to do next is literally just show up. I'm not asking you to have a killer workout every session, or immediately be the next Jimi Hendrix after 2 sessions of doing nothing but fucking up chords. What I'm asking you do is push yourself to try to be the best, even if your best for the day is only jogging on the treadmill for 10 minutes before walking out, strumming very shittily for 15, or just typing a paragraph on your script. At the end of the day, by pushing yourself to do those extra 10 minutes on the treadmill, 15 minutes of strumming, or adding that extra paragraph, that is still extra minutes you fought to better yourself. Minutes worth of improvement. Minutes closer to your goal versus zero. Entire minutes you weren't complacent with your misery. And lastly, minutes that actually made a fucking difference. Because when you stick by to do those extra minutes, it translates into hours or days by the end of the year and turns you into a better version of you. So please stop being complacent and make that change you yearn for, 10 minutes at a time. But with all of that out of the way, I wanted to move on to issue 2, the over reliance of comfort versus discipline. Somewhere along the line, we as a society has learned to label discomfort as danger, something that should be avoided at all costs. We have determined that discomfort is something we should strive to avoid and something we get zero use out of. But that rhetoric is a fallacy. It's always been a fallacy. Discomfort has never been the enemy. It is our own comfort that continues to tear us down at the end of the day, and it forces us into a prison of mediocrity. To quote David Goggins, suffering is a test. That's it. Suffering is a price of admission for a better life. If we want the pain of life to dull, then we have to fight it head on. If we want to be that person we always envied, we have to face that discomfort. If we want to finally liberate ourselves from mediocrity and be a part of that 1%, then we need to step the fuck up and gear the fuck up to tackle the barriers that stand between us and that future. Because that barrier is comfort. And as soon as we push past it, that's where we can actualize our self growth desires. Making that change has always been chaotic and difficult, but instead of leaning into that chaos, society has taught us it's better to numb it. We scroll through our Instagram reels. We binge meaningless shows that we're just going to forget about 15 minutes later. We distract ourselves from harsh realities. We're always so desperate to avoid that pain, to feel better immediately, that we cheat ourselves out of feeling better for the long term. We can't find our fulfillment in life by taking the easy way out. We find real fulfillment through effort, by doing the hard shit even when they don't give you the instant results you crave. In the end, this is about resilience, because the truth is, the shortcuts we don't take lead to freedom. They just continue to keep us stuck in a loop when we take those shortcuts, questioning why we feel empty despite doing everything right. And to wrap this up, I just want to say that this isn't about chasing motivation. It's about creating that trust within yourself that can lead you to surmounting the hardest obstacles. Motivation flees, but discipline stays, and discomfort is a vessel of growth. We have been taught to seek out comfort, but that comfort really just leads to a life of unfulfillment and more discomfort in the long run. So let's show up, let's do the hard shit when no one's watching, and let's break free from the shackles that hold us down. Let's just make our progress. Finally, the last point I'm going to cover with you today is how we lost ourselves and aren't honest with who we are anymore. Mainstream society as a whole has traded depth for vapid aesthetics, meaningless attention, and shallow materialism. We aren't present with ourselves anymore. We post on Instagram about how exciting our lives are to get validation from strangers rather than forging a connection with ourselves. We lie to ourselves to fit in, to be liked, to be admired, to fit in the zeitgeist of society and sacrifice our authenticity. We pretend we're confident. We pretend we're happy. We pretend like we aren't just holding up a fucking mask to our own face. And when we're not wearing that mask, we're just left with a quiet, gnawing emptiness that reminds us that we can't be ourselves. It's exhausting, and I know that firsthand. You build yourself to be somebody you're not. And for what? Just to feel more miserable? I did that for so long, and it did absolutely nothing for me. I just wanted to be accepted for who I was. And what was the point of fitting into society when you have to essentially hide every facet of yourself? When I let go of trying to prove myself to those around me, things got much easier. I wasn't investing so much energy into making those around me think I was somebody I wasn't. And in turn, I was instead able to invest it into finding me and really just loving me for who I was. And with time, this allowed me to find people who loved me for me. Those who appreciated me as a person rather than my looks, what bullshit designer clothes I was wearing or wasn't wearing, or any of that vapid bullshit. And let me tell you, it's freeing. So I want you to stop performing. I want you to stop wearing that mask, and I want you to be that person that you want to be, and not the person that society wants you to be. So stop letting others rule over you and be the ruler of your own mind. But anyways, with all that out of the way, I just wanted to end this video off by saying that I hope you can break free from the vicious cycles of complacency, comfort, and inauthenticity that society perpetuates. Whether it's forcing yourself to go on that 15-minute run, speaking your mind without giving a fuck about what others think, or finally taking that leap to dive straight into your self-improvement journey, it all begins by stepping outside of your comfort zone. Fight through the discomfort and pain and continue to stay consistent and disciplined because when you combine those two traits, you can achieve absolutely anything. I know you can do this, and I wish you the best when it comes to achieving your dreams. And lastly, always remember, don't let it win.